this movie that doesn't exist in these reality variance histories. This genie movie with Sinbad as a genie. Yeah. So many people are so adamant that they recall that movie, and I don't. But I do have an interesting story of my own about it. Possibly about it. It seems to be about it. Yeah. So I've learned that I've definitely had other wives. And it is very convincing to me. And I've found out about 2 of them so far. And one of them, I know it sounds whatever, but one of them, I believe, was of being the child actor who was the little sister in some variant, anyway, at least, of one of these Sinbadgenie movies. No joke, of course. Well, here's my story. Alright, so I recalled these. I shouldn't tell the whole story, but I recalled these memories that seemed to be from like Los Angeles, probably, and I believe they are. And I even thought that these memories actually were memories from early in my current lifetime. But now I've found out that they are not. So it is very convincing to me that these memories are from another life. I've never been to that area in my current lifetime, not even near there. Yeah. Yep. And I believe I recall that I was kind of like a child actor, or preparing to be one at least. And I feel like I was in like game shows. I remember that. I think I was in some game show. I remember these like memories of game shows, or at least one game show anyway. And so yeah, and so then I had this memory of being like at a zoo, what seemed like a zoo. I thought it was a zoo, but I didn't remember there were any animals there. It was just like a trail through trees. And then I realized that could be a memory from that life, actually, not from my current life, but lifetime, but from that life. And then I realized that could have been at the Los Angeles Zoo. So then I went to Google Maps, and then I found this one particular area at the old Los Angeles Zoo, and before I looked at it on Street View, I remembered what the parking lot there looked like, and then I looked at the parking lot there on Google Street View, and it looked exactly like what I recalled. Honestly. And that looks like the place. So, I think that's where I was. So anyway, that's one memory that strongly seems to show that I was in that area and blah blah blah. Now, sorry, get to the main thing. So, I also remembered that a memory came back to me, which I know is a memory from very early in my life, or in my memories of like what looked like probably must have been a filming site. And I mean, I remember there were these chairs there, like they have at filming sites, chairs with names of the different people there on them. And one of the names, I mean, there was a director's chair there, I recall. I remember that there was a director's chair there, and the name on that chair, the name on it was Roger Corman, definitely, which is who some people like the one person on Reddit who first mentioned this to make it like something people were talking about. He thinks that it was definitely probably Roger Corman who was the director of the Sinbadgeniemovie, or one variant of it at least. Now, I also, I'm sure, I just know that I recall that it was Roger Corman. Oh, I have to mention, I was about to move on to saying something else, but I know that Roger Corman was also there. I remember him even there as the director. He was the director. I remember him being the director there. And people, and even that I heard that name then. So yes, Roger Corman. That was at a filming site of a movie directed by Roger Corman. And And there was another chair there that that I recall also. And I kind of remembered, without thinking about it much, just the feeling that this chair was situated in the area for like the audio visual department or something, and that it was for like near the where they did the rotoscoping. I remember that word. I didn't really remember it the word exactly, but I was close to recalling that just about. I mean, that's definitely right. This was in the area for the rotoscoping, and there's another chair there, and I remembered there was another name on the chair, and just from that memory, I came up with the name Mixon. Mixon is the name I recall that looks like it's the name that was on that chair that I recall. Definitely. That definitely looks right. And then so I went to IMDb. Oh, wait. I'm not done with that story either. And for some reason, I wasn't sure of why, I had this association with Patty and Selma from The Simpsons in regard to this memory. And I wasn't sure why. And when I was trying to think of the name Mixon, I had this this quiet whisper of the name Bart as possibly his first name. But then I just kind of disregarded that because I was thinking I must just be thinking Bart because of this association with Patty and Selma, whatever that is. But anyway, so then I went on IMDb and searched on the name Mixon, and I looked through the whole list of people with the name Mixon on IMDb and found only 2 people who it could be, and they're twin brothers, Bart and Brett Mixon. Bart and Brett Mixon. Now I remember the name. I would have, if I thought about it just a little more. Brett Mixon was definitely the name on the chair. And Bart might have been there too. Bart Simpson. Bart Simpson. Bart Mixon. Bart Simpson. Anyway, so and that's why there was this association with Patty and Selma from The Simpsons. Bart Mixon is like Bart Simpson. Patty and Selma are twins. Bart and Brett Mixon are twins. This validates that memory is accurate. It really was Brett Mixon, one of them anyway. I think Brett, that's the name I distinctly remember now on that chair, and I would have if I thought about it just a little more. Anyway, those are the only 2 people on that list who it could be, and the kinds of movies they did are kind of similar to this Sinbadgeniemovie thing. It's kind of weird, whatever, and I mean, some of them are very similar in their whatever to the Sinbadgeniemovie thing. Uh, uh, um, and and they did rotoscoping, which I distinctly recall now. Rotoscoping, and that they even one of them probably even let me help with that, or like do that kind of. I distinctly remember that now. Also, that brought back this other memory of the camera, and and of the film arranged like this when they were doing the rotoscoping. I distinctly recall that, and I recall that there was a camera that looked out over a pool. There was a pool with a camera that looked out over it. People remember, I mean, quite a few anyway, including, the person who I was talking about. Remember that there was a scene with a pool at the end of the one variant, at least, of the Sinbadgeniemovie. And there's just so much to say. And I also believe I remember seeing Sinbad at that pool. And so, definitely, I'm really quite convinced that is a real memory. And I didn't even mention that I also have this very distinct, vivid memory of actually going to like a studio, what looked like a studio, and that I think that Sinbad was there, and I actually we were along the stage. It was just me, and it was me and a group of other kids, and we were there. It must have been, like in some kind of like casting call kind of thing, and something like this, and I remember that there was a guy there who I definitely think was Sinbad, and not only that, people remember there was a scene. Including the one person I've been talking about, where the little sister character put on Sinbad's character's genie shoes. And I remember that I went over to this guy who looked like Sinbad, and then I was like, I struggled, because what it definitely was is that as I remember, there were other shoes there near Sinbad, and I distinctly recall that I took my shoes off, and then it must be that I tried to put those shoes on. I remember that. But they were like too large, and I so distinctly remember, so undeniably remember that I then went stumbling across the stage, and it was because of the shoes that were near this person who must have been Sinbad. I mean, who definitely, I mean, it just all fits. And that was for the role of that character in that movie. And then I even have a memory of having gone back to that same studio later, and my family or whatever, whoever was in attendance in the audience, and they were there like to watch me. Must have been in most likelihood. All right. And I also recalled how I was backstage, and there was this other person there who seemed to be a performer. No, was definitely a performer, at least. So I'm thinking he must have been an actor in that movie. And he was, and we were, he was getting ready to go on stage, sitting behind a mirror. I distinctly recall that, and not only that, I also recalled another memory was brought back of me in that life, sitting at a mirror backstage, and while they were preparing my hair to go out on stage, and I remember that in the mirror, my image looked exactly like how people recall she looked in that movie. And I remember distinctly, I'm sure, I definitely believe I remember I had a beret cap, just like people have also recalled she had. I remember that cap, that I liked that cap. And I really believe I remember that it was part of my costume, I think. So, yeah, and okay, back to the part of the story about Bart and Brett Mixon. Yeah. So, I was trying to see how I could talk to them, because I wanted to tell them this really. So I went, I found this site that shows like people's contact information, and it also shows their addresses, their former addresses. So I noticed that, and So then I thought, look at, their former addresses on Google Maps. I mean, understandably, I think. I mean, I wanted to know, what was going on with this. I mean, I recall that name, or these names. So, yeah, so I looked at their former addresses and that it said there on Street View to see whether they looked familiar at all. And I was like, nah, I don't know if they really look familiar. But so then I just, I stopped with that, moved on to thinking about other memories, and so I thought of, then I recalled very clearly more memories that I know are from way back in my memory, that I first had way back in my memory, and I didn't think they were from my current lifetime. And one of them, if not even more than one, is /R of going to the restaurant Bob's Big Boy. And I don't think I've ever been to that restaurant in my current lifetime. And I very clearly remember going there, even multiple times. So then I remembered that, and around the same time I also recalled a memory of being at what looked like an apartment, and I very distinctly recall that there was a sign that could be seen out the window of the apartment. A circular red neon sign, or red or purple red neon sign. And this memory is from night, and I saw this sign out the window, and I couldn't quite place what the sign was for at first. But then I set out on Google Maps again to try to find this place, and I was gonna look for that sign, and I didn't think I'd be able to find it, but I had a good idea of where to look for it, and it was the exact right place to look for it. So I went to this area in Los Angeles on maps, G Maps, and the first place I looked there, I saw that there's a Bob's Big Boy there. And that got my attention, of course. So then I went on Street View, and it started to occur to me that the sign I recall was a sign for Bob's Big Boy. Well, very likely, or quite possibly. And so then I thought, is there an apartment around there? So then I went to look for this apartment, and sure enough, I found this building, which looks like what I remember, and it's within sight, or the sign for Bob's Big Boy, which is like what I recall, is within sight of this apartment building. That's the place I recall, and the sign can be seen from it, just as I recall. But there's more, and I recognized the name of the street that building is on as the same name I had seen in the list of former addresses of Bart Mixon. That's right. That is right. So then I went back to look at that again. And I had looked at all the addresses it said there. And one of them, the one I'm talking about, with the same street name, it said 2028 North Rose Street, number 201. And I had looked at that, 2028 North Rose Street, and it's a house. So why the number 201? It's a unit number. Why a unit number for a house? And the address shown on the building I'm talking about, the apartment, quote-unquote apartment building, is 225 North Rose Street. 225. It's a 5 instead of an 8, but it's a building with multiple entrances to the different divisions. And I was searching on Google to see if a building like that could have multiple addresses like that. And it said, I found one answer at least, that said that they could, if they have multiple entrances like that. And the building across the street from that is 225. Is 222. And that building is 225. So another division of that building would be 228. And the other address it said was 2028, which could be said 22-8. 22-8. So what I think happened is that they were told it was 22-8, and that meant 228. but they thought it meant 2028, 22-8, but it meant 228. And the unit number, 201. Yeah, I looked at information about some units, or at least one or two or so in that building, and it said there's one or multiple with unit numbers in the low 200s with odd numbers that fits with there being a number 201 at that building. So, I believe that I was at Bart Mixon's residence. Yep. Yep. And, so, yeah. I also believe I remember him from how he looks, that he was around. So, if I really was in that movie or some variant of it, well, or even if I wasn't, which I think I was, then it's clear that Brett Mixon, or at least in my memory anyway, was definitely very likely involved with that movie. Yeah. And so yeah. And yeah, I have more memories also that kind of, or more than kind of, that seem to be from when we made that movie, when I was in that movie too. I remember being I remember when the scene with Sinbad in a taxi cab was filmed. I remember being there. I mean, I wasn't in that scene, but I remember being there, and I definitely believe I remember, now that I've been reminded of it, that we were there, like, waiting to see that taxi cab with Sinbad in it, waiting to watch as that taxi cab went by. And I believe I even remember that I saw that taxi cab. That's what was going on, and I remember that I distinctly remember that, like, there was a camera crew there, and I knew that what they were, the filming or recording was a program that I was gonna be in. I knew that absolutely. It was definitely a program that I was in, but I didn't really remember what was going on then before, but now I remember that's what it was. And yes, and I remember being in that attic when me and my older brother, the character of my older brother, went up there to find that genie lamp. I swear, that's always been like in the back of my mind as like this really nostalgic memory. But it's really, like distant, and it's kind of hazy and everything, but it's there. And it, I don't think it's from my current lifetime, and it's this really nostalgic memory, which is like really just in the back of like I don't know. It's long, but I remember this as something from back then, and it doesn't seem. It's so the memory is so like hazy and just shrouded in whatever, but it's there. It's and it's a really nostalgic memory, and this I don't think that's from my current lifetime. I think that is from that life when I was in that scene in that movie. And yes. So there you have it. And I have more memories even also that I think are from when I was in that movie. So anyhow, that's my story about that. Do I have anything else about it? I mean, I do, but anything else I want to say in this video? I don't think so. So, yeah.